most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 7th day of February. 30 minutes past the hour, we'll have Jeffrey Deskovic returning to the program. Jeffrey's going to talk about his article he wrote on the Super Bowl Sunday that got published in Sports Illustrated about 11 years ago, okay? Back in 2013. He's been on the program numerous times, talk about his wrongfully incarceration and whatnot. Didn't really go into that specific article. You can go back and watch the program where we broke down what happened with him and his case, which is really interesting here. Also, got a few. I want to talk about Patrick Mahomes. That was an interesting stat brought up on ESPN Get Up, and I'll talk about that and the names on that. A potential huge milestone for Mahomes if he can pull off this win. Talk about that after the break. Nick Saban will be with ESPN. Just read that he will be on game day. Lee Corsko's still staying even at 80 something. He will help out with the game day crew. So that's been official. I'm sure it's something he's been thinking about for a while. Interesting comment about Mad Dog Russo, Chris Mad Dog Russo, formerly really, I think he still is a New York City sports personality. I know he does some SiriusXM stuff. He also works with ESPN on the First Take show as well. Interesting comment there on Peacock that I've been echoing for a long time with Roger Goodell. I'll talk about that. But first, let's take our first and only break. I'll be back here in 49 seconds. We'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Okay. Now, let's see where to start at here. A quick homage to Toby Keith here. I got so swamped yesterday and sideways. I really hate the fact that 62 years old, died of stomach cancer, and I know he's been battling for a couple of years now. But thoughts and prayers with the guy's family. And I was listening to a few of his songs that raising up our glasses against evil forces, whiskey for my men, beer for my horses. One of that, Who's Your Daddy? I mean, he had a lot of good hits. Not as good as I once was, if I ever was. Boy, I really missed, and way too young, 62. When you're 42, like myself, like 62 is not too far off. So it's he should have lived another 25 or 30 years, Anyways, okay, now, getting back to the show here. Now, this is such an interesting stat here from ESPN's Get Up show, and I took a picture. I was watching it as I was preparing for today's program. Wasn't even going to talk about this, but, talent's one thing, right? But also having everything work around you and specific breaks. Patrick uses the term blessed. I use the term blessed. Have great players around you, have elite coaching around you, and obviously doing the work as yourself. It is a lot to become a champion in a team sport. And one thing can go awry, and you're in a very highly competitive league with another superstar. If you're in basketball, or whatever, things can go. What if he would have went to the Bears? Instead of an Andy Reid who has brought every single quarterback elevated to their best ability. Now, he's by far the most talented quarterback that Andy Reid's ever coached. But you look at the elevation of a Donovan McNabb, even a Jeff Garcia. Remember that name, folks. We all thought Garcia was washed up when he went to the Eagles after he left the 49ers. Okay? They ended up getting to the playoffs, guys like Jeff Garcia. Resurrecting Michael Vick after being incarcerated for 2 years practically? What he was, 2 seasons? If you count his suspension, maybe 3. And, it's the Andy Reid effect, Alex Smith, you name it. Everybody he's coached along the way, their numbers have gotten better. But anyways, back to this milestone. So Get Up puts this out here. If, it's a big if because they're underdogs, but I'm heavily leaning towards Kansas City winning this Super Bowl, okay? If he wins this Super Bowl in the first 7 seasons, or he wins this Super Bowl, not the first Super Bowl. If he wins Sunday, all right, 3 champions with 3 world championships with 2 MVPs in their first 7 seasons, and ESPN puts out the NBA, NHL, MLB, everything, right? Larry Bird is in that crowd. Bill Russell, the great Bill Russell, another Celtic there. I think he went on to win 9 or 10 championships, some crazy number like that. The great Mickey Mantle for the Yankees. Stan Musial, okay, older baseball player. Obviously, Joe DiMaggio and this guy, Guy LaFleur. Not even Wayne Gretzky had that type of accomplishment. And you know what really stood out more than any of these things was Larry Bird. I did not know that. The first 7 seasons, you think about this, some of you NBA historians. Maybe I'll ask Jeffrey Deskovic if we got time, because we'll get to a lot when he comes on. But Larry Bird here only won 3 championships his whole career. He was drafted in 78. Bird was drafted in 78. And by the time of 86, right, I don't think they lost it. This Celtics team is playing really well at times. Now, I know they got beat by the Lakers. They didn't lose that much at home, but they did get beat by the Lakers last week. Totally unprepared to play. It was really a disgrace. But I want to say the 86 Celtics did not lose a single home game. Bird wins his 3rd championship that year in 86. All right. And in that same year, okay, like I said, Bird drafted in 78, by 86, had them 2 MVPs, had his 3 championships, beat Magic, one of them. And the ironic part about this is they had the number, believe this or not, folks, they had the number 2 pick. Okay. And some of you old Boston fans, Corey out there, Andre, the great Andre Gibson, the Celtics had the number 2, even after winning the championship. The finals are over with in June. At the end of June, right around the 2nd week of June. Normally, that's when the NBA draft is. And I looked this up here on Yard Barker. The Celtics lucked into the 2nd pick in the 1986 draft, dealing Gerald Henderson to the Seattle Supersonics back in 84. and they selected Len Bias was to be an athletic force added to the Celtics, who were coming off a 67-15 season and won that championship. It was a tragedy that happened with Len Bias. As soon as he drafted, died of a cocaine overdose that night. Number 2 pick. Okay. And not only that, Larry Bird, even after before going 67-15 and winning the championship, probably, I know it was the best team that Bird had during his era in 86. He was, what did they say he was doing? Paving his mom's driveway. I said he infamously hurt his back. Infamously, infamously hurt his back doing something perfectly on brand and humble with the superstar, building a driveway for his mother by himself in 1985. And while that back injury affected him the last several seasons, the camera problem started in 88. So he had pulled something severely in his back. He's so tough. He just so used to playing through any kind of pain. Paving a driveway in 1985, right? And you look at that and think, okay, what if Bird doesn't do something that idiotic? That's why I commend a guy like LeBron James spending the kind of money that he does on his body every year. I mean, we're talking 20 seasons now. I commend the avocado pajamas. Colin Coward jokes around about with the Tom Brady 23 seasons in the NFL, practicing falling down, no beers during the season. What if Len Bias was never had a drug problem, or maybe he never did? Maybe it was just a one-time thing. Never touched drugs. This guy was a really, really good athlete. And, he wasn't one of these 19. He was ready to play and contribute right away, right? What if Bird doesn't get that back injury? All right. What if Len Bias does not have the drug overdose? Think about all that. What if none of that stuff happens? Bird has already got a 3-time championship. He's arguably, even with that, 13 years, this guy, 13 years in, okay, three NBA championships, 2 MVPs. He got that in his first 7 years. He was arguably one of the greatest small forwards of all time. If that didn't happen, I think they could have won 2 more championships. You would be comparing him with Jordan and Magic. Magic got the 5. Magic wouldn't have got the 5 if they got Len Bias. No back problems for Bird. Okay, I don't know if the Pistons would have won anything. So it's funny how just a little bit of something here and there, and a little bit of something. So I guess my whole point is, yes, Mahomes, he is on this wild streak right now. 6 straight AFC championship games starting with his first year. But what if Andy Reid just says, you know what, I'm done? And I hope it don't happen. I love to watch the great Andy Reid work. He always comes up with something over the summer. But a lot of stuff you have to have some type of help. Okay. You look at the Belichick Brady thing. Look how down the AFC East was at that time. So there's a lot to go into. And Mahomes, it's what I really like about this guy. He realized, he said, hey, listen, I know I'm blessed with great coaching. I know I'm blessed with great players. Again, Steve Spagnuolo was not the first defensive coordinator there, but just one little thing here or there, then we realized what if the Bears drafted him? They had it. We talked about it yesterday with John Restano. But again, but none of that stuff did happen. And he does have his 2 championship, but getting at number 3, I'm telling you right now, if he can get number 3, he would pass Peyton Manning in my book here. That's a big if. They're technically underdogs, but I'm not going to bet against him. Here it is Wednesday. I can't see myself betting against Patrick Mahomes in this defense, per se. I mean, he's up there with he's not ahead of Elway. He's not going to be ahead of Montana, even though his playoff wins are right there with these guys. And obviously, Brady's the best. And contrary to what people say, that kind of longevity, that's a big deal. I think he's like 14 playoff, and Brady's like 35. But it's an interesting list there. If he wins, he would be in company with Larry Bird. These are 3 championships, 2 MVPs in his first 7 seasons. Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Mickey Mantle, Stan Musial, Joe DiMaggio, and Guy LaFleur from the NHL. That is some serious company right there. No Michael Jordan, no Kobe, no Shaq, no Wayne Gretzky for hockey fans, no Babe Ruth for you baseball folks. That's a rare company to get that in your first 7 seasons. That's what kind of historic run that he's on with Andy Reid. Good luck, Patrick Mahomes. Okay. All righty then. Okay. I mentioned it. I'm going to talk about this Mad Dog story. Chris Mad Dog Russo. You all know I've mentioned this after this happened. I did not watch, speaking of Kansas City, I did not watch 1 second. I followed it on my phone of the Chiefs Dolphins game on the Peacock. Did not watch any of that. And because they're charging people to stream a playoff game. And, I went on and talked about how this is the fan base is blue collar, hardworking people. Some of the fan bases, some of the future stars of this game can't afford to stream Peacock. You're getting away from your future stars. So some of these kids grew up poor, like me. We didn't have cable. I couldn't afford that. I would have been one of those kids that couldn't afford it. So here's Chris Mad Dog Russo. I think this was on. Gotta find out where he's at here. I want to say it's on ESPN this morning. First take, and he's got a really good rift here. Yeah, this is on ESPN this year. Chris Mad Dog, real famous, known in New York. I think he still had that Sirius XM show. Makes a really good point here.
Now, the answers that they give you, well, our younger audience, we have all sorts of surveys that indicate that they are going to streaming. And the Dolphin Chief game this year, the younger audience attendance was superb. So essentially, we almost have to go to streaming for our business model. Now, hold on. What are we, an idiot? I got younger kids. They stream, but they're sports fans. You think they couldn't find a game on NBC, CBS, Fox, or our network if the game is there? Oh, come on. It's the football playoffs. They had $23 million for the Chief Dolphin game. The next night with the Lions against the Rams on NBC, they had $38 million.
Yeah, that $15 million did not want to pay for that streaming. I was one of them. More from Mad Dog.
So the idea that they're doing the young audience a tremendous service by showing a game in a postseason on streaming is a bunch of freaking nonsense. They did it because the NBC people gave them $110 million for the one stupid game. So all the owners, they split the $55 million and they make a fortune. They can stay at the Venetian. They can stay at the Wynn Hotel. They can have their commissioner parties. This is not about little Timmy Russo, little Colin Russo, little Kira Russo. This is about making money. And next year, another postseason game is on Peacock. And their answer is, well, our young fan, they stream. Nonsense! It's NFL playoff football. 110 million people are going to watch the Super Bowl, and it is not being streamed.
Hey, look, I know he's a little animated. Excuse me, I'm tongue-tied today. But again, that 100 million, you're $1 billion industry. I know they get over about 250. These are your owners. About between 200 and $250 million every year from revenues. I want to say that's TV rights, not to mention concession money from the stadiums. Okay. And like he said, you got 110 million people watching the Super Bowl alone. Some of these playoff games get 49 million, especially the Dallas games. 49, 50 million people watching these NFC championship games. I still stand by what I said when I first heard about this. I do plan on boycotting that Peacock thing and starting a hashtag boycott Peacock NFL streaming. And what we'll do is I'll put out a video of it, a short video. People got such short attention spans, and pay for that to be promoted all over the X app. And I'm gonna get a hold of as many media people that will do this. Possibly Jason Whitlock. He's talking about having another one of those conventions down here in Nashville. Saw it last year, didn't get a chance to meet the guy, didn't want to sit through the whole thing. It's like an 8-hour, like a seminar or something he's having, like a convention, whatever. But I'm going to do it this time. He says it's going to be on June 1st on a Saturday. I'll sit through the whole thing, but I'm going to try to talk to him about boycotting the Peacock playoff next year. Even if we could just do a small dent in that and get other media outlets. Because this is built on, blue-collar people, poor people, So if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. Eventually, we're going to have to play $59.95 to watch a freaking Super Bowl. It's not right. It's turned into a sport for elites. And hopefully we will be successful with that. Kudos to Chris Mad Dog Russo, which I'm surprised he had the audacity to say that on ESPN, because they get Monday Night Football, right? But speaking of ESPN, so Nick Saban, I thought he was going to be busy. He's going to be on College Game Day next season. Now, Lee Corso, I think 84, 85 years old, will still be back. Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard, Pat McAfee. I think it's really good show. Actually watch this. I don't watch any of the pro shows because we talk so much NFL here between my show, the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show, and Sanja Pearson's on there now. I used to come on there and make a special appearance for 30 minutes. Got really busy, but that comes on the Northeast Streaming Network. And they do a lot of NFL. They're just as good as those other guys. They just want to have the proper branding behind them, right? They come on at 8 a.m. Eastern time every Sunday. Very good show, big football show. But anyways, I thought Nick Saban would do this. I thought he'd jump right into TV. He's on there making several guest appearances. So I think they haven't clarified this, but I think he's going to travel with them to every school and break down games. Well, that just makes their show that much better. They were getting competition from the Fox people led by Urban Meyer, but they got Nick Saban. So I think that's really cool. Here's something that food for thought. Nobody else agrees with me. I do think maybe after a year, if the situation's right. If it's a situation like a Jim Harbaugh where he got a job, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't take an NFL job in a year. It would have to be the ideal quarterback, a Justin Herbert level quarterback, somebody really good coming into their own, okay? And all they need is a good disciplinarian type of coach. He would be considered the greatest coach of all time, perhaps, if he could do that. You know, I want to say, what's he got, 7 national championships? He wasn't a terrible coach in the NFL. He wanted to win big. You know, if he would have got Drew Brees, the history of the AFC East could have changed. Instead, that fell through because of his shoulder surgery or whatever. Could not pass a physical. Brees couldn't. And they end up going with Culpepper, who also had injury problems, and rest is history. Went to Alabama and became the greatest college coach of all time. So yeah, a lot of interesting stories there. I am waiting on Jeffrey Deskovic, who could be here at any time. So in other news, while we're waiting here, also I'm reading that Josina Anderson, I think she's with CBS. She says, I'm told that the Jets and Bills' former head coach Rex Ryan is interviewing. He is interviewed as if already happened for the Cowboys defensive coordinator job. I'll say this. A lot of people think he's kind of a blowhard, big mouth, loudmouth guy, not head coaching material. You know, he got off to a good start there with the Jets, 2 AFC championship games, and the longer he stayed there, the quarterback play of a Mark Sanchez just got worse and worse and worse, right? And of course, he gets fired. Then he goes to Buffalo. Nothing, total failure there at Buffalo. But I'll say this: his defenses, they stop the run, and they're very aggressive. And you could see that was what's lacking in their losses for the Cowboys last year when they had all those players out on the offensive line, and they really couldn't match Arizona, or they should have never lost Arizona. But they couldn't match Arizona early in intensity. Arizona with James Conner ran all. That does not happen, folks, on a Rex Ryan coach defense. Ryan is very good defensive. You know, he's the son of Buddy Ryan, and they're big on blitzing, and they're big on stopping the run. And they need another tackle. Jonathan Hankins stayed hurt. They need help at that tackle, and they need help at corner. Getting a little long in the tooth there with Stephon Gilmore. But I'll say this: you put a look at the difference there. And I know Dan Quinn had his moments where they played great at times. A lot of pick sixes last year. DeRon Bland getting a lot of targeted, and but it'd be interesting to see how he would work with. I think he would fall back though to Mike McCarthy. But hey, he was a coach. He was a coordinator with the Ravens. Now I know Ravens always got great players, but his defenses. He's been out in the league since 2016. I would hire Rex Ryan in a minute. I tell you, this guy would be. He's a great coordinator. People get head coach mixed up with bad coordinator. You know, people say, well, "Why are you so high on Cliff Kingsbury? He thought he'd be a disaster head coach." But it actually wasn't that bad. They got Cliff Kingsbury, the coordinator now for Washington. Remember, Arizona got to the playoffs. Kyler Murray's injuries really set them back, but run a good offense. You know, he coached Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, but he also been fired at Arizona. He also been fired at Texas Tech. I was hearing that he was not confrontational enough. Sometimes you have to confront people and whatnot. Some guys are just, they don't know how to delegate right. They take one side of the ball too lightly. They put too much into the other side, whether it's coaching, draft picks, free agency. That's usually your defensive-minded head coaches here. And some of your offensive-minded head coaches are more quiet, cerebral type of people. They're good with the court, but they're not as, they're not as confrontational and whatnot. So there's Jeffrey Deskovic here, which I've got his foundation at the bottom of the screen, and I wanted to bring him up as we speak. Hey, man, how you doing? Nice suit.
Thanks, Rob. How you doing?
Good. I'm good. I was just going over some things, There's an interesting little stat here. You're a big basketball fan.
I am.
And they were talking about this on ESPN. 3 championships, 2 MVPs in the first 7 seasons. If Patrick Mahomes can win Sunday, and ESPN put these names, there's some names that I would think that may have been there, but not there. No LeBron, no Michael Jordan, no Wayne Gretzky, but they got guys like Larry Bird, Think if Larry Bird wouldn't have hurt his back when he was paving his mom's driveway in 1985, and Len Bias in 86 didn't drive a drug overdose when he was drafted. So then you got guys like Bill Russell, Mickey Mantle, Stan Musial, Joe DiMaggio, and they had one hockey player, some guy named Gary LaFleur. I'm not a big hockey guy, but I tell you that I just thought that was an interesting stat there. What
was that a list of? The best of all time in their respective sports?
No, this is first 7 seasons, Jeffrey. 3 championship rings, 2 MVPs. This is Patrick Mahomes's. This is the kind of elite company that he could be in. It tells you really kind of have a good team behind you. You got to have good coaching, and you got to be fortunate not to get injured.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the MVPs, that's your ability. I can't take that from him. But in terms of having how many championships within the first season, there's so many factors beyond an athlete's control, such as what you mentioned. One of them, you have to have a championship caliber team around you. Maybe the team you went to wasn't that way, and so you don't have that. Michael Jordan's teams weren't all that talented when he got started.
Right.
I don't even really think it's much of a discussion as to who's better, Jordan or Bird. I think Jordan is kind of universally recognized. Bird was a top 3. There's no top 3, certainly top 5, no doubt about it.
He's a small forward.
Nobody would ever, but nobody would ever argue that he was better than Jordan. Well, just like Bill Russell, he won 8 champ. It was 8. That was 8 championship teams.
Yeah.
But then again, the league was very thin. There wasn't that many teams. There were a lot of bad teams. The competition, wasn't as tough to come by. Look, I think if Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, and I do predict he will. We get into that possibly.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah.
Right, but look, he's not the GOAT. Right, but he's not the GOAT. Okay.
Right.
He's not. Yes, I would.
Right.
Brady. He's not better than Tom Brady. Eli Manning's quote was kind of slick. Well, the GOAT. Well, I beat him twice. He did. You get credit for that. You have 2 rings, all the props in the world. Okay. You weren't the quarterback that he was. You beat him twice in the Super Bowl, but he's got 7 rings to your 2. He's got 10 appearances to your 2. You were never on his level, so that's kind of disingenuous on his part.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't put him above Montana nor Elway got the 5. With Elway 2 different coaches.
5. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Elway got to 5. So, I think so I mean, his accomplishments. He's gotten to 4. Elway got to 5. He would need to. Well, I mean, I think he's in the discussion about whether or not he's better or better than or equal to or even less than Elway. I mean, that's certainly a debatable thing. If you told me I had
would
to
put him maybe above. What about maybe a Peyton Manning? Would you put it if he wins? If he wins Sunday?
Yes, I would put him above. I would. I would.
We
put
would
him
get
above.
pushback there, but I wouldn't, Jeffrey. Me and you are on the same page.
Yeah, I think that if you told me I had to win a game tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And my team and the other team, everybody's players are exactly equal ability, but I got to pick the quarterback, and that's where the ability differentiation is going to be. And the choice was between Elway or Mahomes. I'm going with Mahomes.
Oh, wow.
I would rather have Patrick Mahomes.
I don't know. I might go with Elway, man. I don't know.
You would. Okay.
That's a tight one, man. Elway can play in any era with his arm strength and wow.
Yeah, he does. And Elway was a scrambler. He was fast, but but he wasn't running for these huge chunks of yards the way that Mahomes is. I mean, Elway's running had more to do with like scrambling than it did actually taking off downfield. As fun as it was to see him launch himself in the air and do the spin
helicopter,
as cool as that was to see him.
As
good as it was for him to see him in that Super Bowl. Yeah. But look, incredible that he's been in the this many Super Bowls. I mean, the Chiefs even appearing in 6 straight AFC Championship games.
That's crazy, right?
It really is crazy. They are dominating down there in Kansas City. There's no question. What a disappointing loss in contrast to Mahomes and all his success. I mean, what a disappointing loss on the part of Josh Allen. I mean, always coming up, always losing to the Chiefs. I mean, he didn't play well. I mean, the game that they lost, the game that they lost, I want to say, I think it was last year, the one when he took them down the field twice in the last 2 minutes, and with 12 seconds left, they couldn't bring down.
A couple years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. I feel like
last
Josh
year
Allen
they got
played
beat by Cincinnati.
That's right. Yeah. They got blown out and embarrassed. But I feel like Josh Allen played better in the game 2 years ago than what he did against Kansas City this year, having finally gotten a home game and playing worse. I mean, I don't understand it. I'm not sure what else they really need to do there. I don't feel like he played all that well. Yeah,
maybe it just the defense is the unsung hero. Look what they did to Lamar in that offense there, Jeffrey.
I
did. Swore the Ravens were going to win that game coming in.
Yeah, right. That was a major upset. But you hit on the key thing though. That game was won by the Kansas City defense, not Patrick Mahomes, because all 7 times Kansas City had the ball in the second half, they didn't score 1 time.
Nope. No.
So
I think they only had like 65 yards, A lot of that was on one play.
Right.
That defense was great for Baltimore.
Right. That almost reminded me of how, the defense played a big role in Tom Brady getting to the last Super Bowl that he played in and won with Tampa Bay. I mean, he was serviceable. He played good, but that defense really drove that run for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and somebody mentioned the fact, and they did have a point. It was one of the ESPN guys. They said that, those tackles were out for the Kansas City Chiefs, but their left tackle and right tackle got hurt in that AFC Championship game prior to that. They had 2 weeks to add in a couple of guys, and, of course, the Tampa defense just took advantage of it, and Brady got his 7th ring, man. So, what if they would have been healthy and he would have beat Brady and been going for number 4.
Well, then he would have a better argument. He would have a better argument, but
for maybe Montana.
I mean, it's still hard to overcome. But I think at that point you would have to consider him to be better than Montana at that point. But
God.
but what I'm leery of is I I don't like using championships as the sole barometer for who's better than who, because you just might have had a much better team, than that. I mean, one player might have had a better team around them than what the what the other player did. So
it's got to measure throw and ability and how well they play in the games, and it's a lot that goes into it. It's not like these shorter, like a basketball, it's less players or an individual sport. So let me ask you about this. You wanted to talk about your Sports Illustrated article. Everybody knows I've had Jeffrey on this program before, but I never actually got to talk to you specifically about this article that you wrote 10 years ago, Super Bowl Sunday, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a while ago. Yes.
49ers and the Ravens. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah. So, I mean, the article. So look, I wrote the article. I cannot take credit for the nifty title. That was Sports Illustrated people. So Sports Illustrated, they have a op-ed section, which they refer to as point after. And, they came up with the nifty title, the most captive audience. Yeah. Rob, you feel free to do dark humor here with me, because this is how
I love the dark humor.
Absolutely. Yes, you do. Yeah. So it was talking about the role of sports in my surviving my wrongful imprisonment for 16 years. Role of sports in general for all the prisoners, whether guilty or innocent, and with a particular focus on the Super Bowl. Yeah. So look, I mean, I think a key to surviving, imprisonment is you have to find things to throw your mind into. You can't just let yourself be in hell all day, every day. Yeah. Twice on Sundays. I remember I had what was called a super radio, which is the best radio the prison would let you have. And so on Sundays, I mean, I don't want to say it was almost like I wasn't in prison, except that it almost was like I wasn't in prison on Sunday. I had my routine. I had the super radio there, and I would play, and I have the 1 o'clock game on the radio, and and then there was the 4 o'clock game, the Sunday night game, and I'd be listening to the Sunday afternoon game, the 1 o'clock game at the same time. So in 1998, Elmira Correctional Facility allowed us to purchase black and white televisions, which meant we had a few stations in the cell. And so I would be watching the game on NBC, and there was a game on Fox. So I'd be watching one game with the sound obviously off, while the better game was always on the radio, Rob. So that was the one I was really
more exciting.
That was the one I was always really paying attention. So I had that routine on Sundays. It was almost like I wasn't I could forget almost for a little while there. And the commentators were better. I thought that the commentators were better. I remember there was John Murphy for the Bills, and I remember there was Bob Myers and Bob Trumpy. And I hear the NFL go, and now, and then they do a recap on the games, and they would try to come up with puns like, well, in Indianapolis today, there was no horsing around, and talking about the Colts.
They're painting a picture for you.
Playoff victory, So So all of those. All those things. I mean, it brought me a little bit of joy. It's.
Was your first year in prison? Did you watch that? Was that your first Super Bowl between the Bills and the Giants in 1990?
Yes, it was. That was that was. I was in the county jail. I had just been wrongfully convicted. And I was awaiting sentencing, and I hadn't even gone upstate yet. But we had the game on in the day room there in the county jail, and for a little while I just wanted to focus in on I was able to focus in on the game, and it was intense. It was a very competitive game. I mean, I think the fact that I was a prisoner had something to do with the fact that I'm cheering for the underdog. I mean, I like the Giants, but more so because of the fact they were underdogs against the Bill. I mean, hell, they were playing. They had their backup quarterback playing, Jeff Hostetler,
Yes,
who had not yet been established as a starter overall. Just Phil Simpson went down, and Hostetler played. I think it was somewhere between 5 to 7 games, and so he had the backup quarterback position there, and I mean, we were all cheering and high fiving. I remember
when Norwood's about to kick that ball. Was you thinking, okay, we're probably going to lose, but this was a good game? What's going through your mind, Jeffrey?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Oh, crap. There's no way he's going to miss. There's no way he's going to miss that. I mean, damn, man, we played such a good game, but all right, well, at least we fought for this, and so the score, as you know, at that point was 20-19. And Norwood lines up for, I believe it was like a 46-yard field goal.
That's usually that's a give me. Yeah.
That is kind of a gimme. And, it's at the end of the game. And so if he makes that kick, there's no scoring after that. I mean, that's pretty much it. And so I remember, the camera's focusing on the people on the sidelines and, he kicks the ball and, it was Marv Levy grabs a hold of the arm of one of the other staffers. Yeah, that's right, James Lofton. Thank you.
I read it in your article. I love that.
Yeah, I see that. And they go like this to raise their hand up in it, and then they go like, and they raise it down and they look down. Because he misses the thing. That kick forever known as wide right. Yeah, and then
you got to feel bad for Scott Norwood, though, right?
You really do have to feel bad for Scott Norwood. I mean, look, overall, Buffalo did not play. They did not play a good game that day. They only put up 19 points. They were the league's leading offense. If you recall, they had just crushed the Raiders in the AFC Championship game. That thing was like 53-3, something wild like that. And meanwhile, the Giants were, barely eking out victories, in their playoffs. So, but we all were jumping up and, laughing and joking and high-fiving and hugging, and doing silly dances and all of that.
You made some new friends that day?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I really,
that's the bonding of sports, right?
It was the bonding of sports. Yeah. Yeah, man. But yes, it was. And speaking of that, I mean, another bonding over sports would be, we would play basketball, we would play 3-on-3, take it back, and sports kind of helped me in a different way there. I mean, I guess my mind needed to leave. It needed to leave being out of prison, and so I came up with this, elaborate delusion that when I was playing basketball, that I was a professional player, so was everyone else, and the armory, that was for the home games. The gym was when we were going on the road.
I love that, man.
My jump shot was much better in the armory than in the gym. Which is kind of like how it generally happens for most players. And the people on the sidelines, they were like the fans, and I could imagine in my head, the color commentators, making the calls and all of that, and. But it really wasn't. It really was not like. It was not like kids fooling around on a playground. This is more of a survival tech, defense mechanism. I needed to leave for a couple hours, and that was my that was my release, and it wasn't just a regular season game I was playing in my mind. This was like this was game. Yeah, this was game. Yeah, exactly.
I love
exactly.
That. Yeah.
It was game 7, and important playoff series, or depending upon the rivalry or intensity or whatever. I mean, this might be the finals. So
who was the play-by-play guy in your head? Mine was always Marv Albert.
It was Marv. It was definitely Marv Albert. Yeah, it was definitely Marv Albert, and that was for the finals. But sometimes it was Rick Berry and Skip Kerry.
Oh yeah,
those guys. Those guys were good, and it would be the late great Craig Sager.
I love Craig TNT.
GNT, doing the halftime interviews and all of that. Yeah, but even everyone else, even besides me, I mean, a lot of people would play basketball, and you have your little basketball community there. I mean,
Yeah.
all you have to do is go over there. You don't have to know the people. You just ask, "Hey, could I have next?" And then, I'd never heard. It's unheard of for someone to ask for next, whether on the basketball court, on the ping pong table, or even in the chess tables, to ask for next and be denied that. Everyone would always, be respected and be allowed to play. And then the next time you were in, but everyone in that area took note and watched. And so the next time you walk over there, somebody might ask you, "Yo, you want to play?" And so that would be how it would, that would be how the social part of it would happen. And most people played sports of one thing or another. I mean, I was kind of part of the chess community, the basketball community. Once in a while, I played ping pong, and that was kind of analogous to playing tennis. And then those are all different, like separate, like communities of people that had that particular interest. But I was able to float between the three of them, depending on what I wanted to do on any given rec period. And then, of course, they also had the sports TV. Those were just the fans that were just fans of professional sports. They weren't, weren't like athletes of any kind themselves. They would just sit there and they would, watch the games, and you'd see the same people were there, and you have sports conversations and everything. And it was. I love reading the sports section. It was hard to get access to newspapers in prison, but there were maybe in the whole prison there was maybe like 2 or 3 people that actually had like a newspaper subscription that would be delivered to them, and there would be like a huge line. Like, I might be number 10 on the list. Someone else might be number 30. To get a hold of the newspaper, would be passed around to everybody in the sports section. When I was in college from 1993 to 95, the college, which had a building on the prison grounds, there was a college library there, which actually rivaled the prison, the actual prison general library. Okay. And they had a subscription. They had a subscription of Sports Illustrated. I used to read some of the sports, and then from that to actually having an op-ed in there.
Yeah, but So, how did you go about getting that op-ed? What made you want to do that?
Yeah. Well, in terms of my motivation, I mean, why I wanted to do it is because Sports Illustrated, and it's a very, very wide audience. And I'm always looking to try to increase my profile. I'm kind of a tool in the fight, against wrongful conviction. And so, as goes I, to some extent, as goes my organization, and to an even lesser but definite extent, as goes the cause. So I figured if I could get published there, it would be great for all of those reasons. And of course, I was hoping also, although this part didn't happen, I was hoping that one athlete or another. I mean, they sometimes they serve as like an ambassador for an organization. I was hoping that it could be a good cause for them to get involved with. I mean, that part of it never happened. In terms of how, so there's a man named Mark Howard who runs. He's a teacher, has a number of nonprofits, but including what's called. He has this movie series, a documentary series called "Making an Exoneree." So him and another exoneree, Marty Tenko, who's a lawyer. They work with college kids, and they're like the investigative arm on wrongful conviction cases. And the kids document things, and they investigate. They document through camcorders, and they partner with the lawyer who's going to do the lawyering of it. And they've gotten a number of people out as well. Mm-hmm. They have gotten a number of people out, but I've been friends with Mark for about. Since 2007, Mark actually lives in D.C., and whenever I go to D.C., so I can take the Amtrak train from New York City, and it's like 3.5 hours away. So, I get to, I've gotten to D.C. maybe like, I don't know, 7 to 10 times, something like that. So whenever I go, I hit him up, and, most of the time we're able to get together, even if it's just for a meal or an hour or two. But Mark knew one of the people at Sports Illustrated, John Wertheim, and I don't know if I asked to meet him or he asked to meet. I forgot exactly the minutia of it, but I remember I had lunch with John Wertheim, and look, I was hoping and dreaming, that I could get a chance to write. Well, either write something or even just have a feature or something on me done. And so I geared when he was talking to me about the human elements of my story and surviving. I was throwing sports stuff in there about the time in prison, emphasizing that rather than other stuff. And I was hoping the light bulb would go off in his head, because I dared not suggest to him directly, maybe someone would write something. But after enough of those things, I'd hit something and go in depth, and then I switch to something else, and then come back, because I also, Rob, I can admit I wasn't trying to be too obvious about it, what I was trying to do either. So I hit it and then, switch to something else and come back. And finally on the third time, he says, well, wait, I think that there's something there, man. What about an article on but he's on you and the role of sports there. But, I really don't, I really don't. He says that he didn't have time because he had a bunch of assignments he had to finish, and he was getting ready to go to Australia to cover the Australian games.
Oh wow, yeah, January, yeah.
So he said to me, "Well, I don't have time to write it. You can write it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what makes you think I can write? What makes you think I can write at the level of the writing that's at Sports Illustrated? I mean, yes, I am a weekly columnist. Yes, I'm getting paid for that. I was making $250 an article. So, I had some writing ability. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
but I mean, I would never have considered myself to be a writer on the same level as
Did you get a lot of feedback from that, man? That's really inspiring,
I've gotten that feedback. A lot of people find it inspiring. They found it entertaining. I did get some sports media coverage out of it, not as much as I would have liked, but I did get to do a couple of radio interviews, including on ESPN. So I thought it was kind of cool to be on ESPN. Yeah, but he said to me, you don't have to write it. Just do your best, and I'll edit it for you. And so that's really what happened. So in the office of my organization, I have 2 issues of the Sports Illustrated. I have both of them framed. I got one, the front cover here, and then the article of my face here, like that.
I love that, man. It's not just prison. It's you got kids that are lonely or divorced parents, and somebody going through. Maybe the parents has got alcohol and drug problems, and they're in one room doing something crazy. And maybe this kid's watching that football game, that level of escapism, just some other type of prison, So I look at it like that, Yeah.
100%. Yeah. No, I even think, in any other setting where people are struggling through hard times, if they have access to a TV, I mean, I could see, I mean, not that I've ever been to a shelter, but I would imagine if there was a TV there, I would imagine people would watch. I mean, certainly people that are hospitalized, whether medical hospital or a psychiatric hospital. I mean, I watch sports in the psychiatric hospital, so I guess maybe it's kind of a first here, but I'm transparent, and you're a great host, and this is a great show, so I'll throw you out some original content. I mean, I was involuntarily hospitalized for 6 months. So after I got arrested, I got bailed out after like 35 days, and I thought I was going back to the life I had. Going back to school and my friends in the apartment complex in the area where I went back, and I thought I was going back to that life, but there was no going back to it. I mean, I was a hated figure in Peekskill. Everybody believed, people think, well, if the cops arrested you for it, then obviously you did it. Newspaper reports of a confession added which was a confession, but it was a coerced false confession. But
Right.
they're reporting it as a confession, so that kind of lends credibility to things. So I mean, there really hadn't been a murder in Peekskill for a long time. This really shook up the community. So I was a hated figure there. I felt like it was somewhat dangerous even for me to be outside walking around. Then they wouldn't let me go back to the high school until the case was resolved. I couldn't play with my friends because, their parents wouldn't let their kids play with me. So there really was no going back in many respects to my life. So I felt like my life was over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually did try to take my life. I took a large unopened bottle of extra strength Tylenol, and I swallowed all the pills, and I went to sleep, and I intended to never wake up again. I thought, that was my intent, but thank God I did wake up. I don't recall how long it was, but I woke up, and my body is throwing up, and I couldn't stop vomiting. And so, eventually that got the attention of my mother and grandmother, and I had to tell them what I did, and they called the ambulance. And so once I was okay medically, and thank God I didn't harm my liver. And I mean, to quote one of the nurses, look, you took enough Tylenol, to really seriously damage the horse's liver.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So when my hospital stay was over, I mean, there was a psych hospital located on the same grounds, and so I was involuntarily committed there. And at some point, I was fine, but like the doctors, I felt like it was kind of a CYA type thing. They didn't want to release, sign off on my being released until my criminal case was finished, because they were concerned that I might slip back into, some sort of suicidal or depressive state. And then they were worried about liability. So, that thing stretched out for like 6 months. I mean, that was at least three to 4 months longer, but than what it needed to be. And then I eventually got transferred to Rockland County Psychiatric Center for kids. Yeah. And there, the doctors had no such issue. They evaluated me over like a month, and they put the paperwork in the court and came to court and said that I'm fine, and I was released. But we went down this rabbit hole, I guess, to say that I know from firsthand experience, that people in psych hospitals, we watch sports. We enjoy sports.
Well, what you're saying could have happened to anybody. I mean, your whole life's going to be taken away from you. I could see a lot of us sane people losing our mind doing something like that. It's a miracle that you made it through it. There's hope at the end of the tunnel.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Amen. And I
you got to write a book, man. I'm sure people's brought that up.
Yeah, many people have brought that up. So I have a book that's 95% written.
Great.
I need a literary. So the only part that has to be added is just a little bit more about my further adventures on the outside.
Yeah.
Because a lot's happened since I last wrote.
A lot of light at the end of the tunnel, man.
A lot of light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, part of the challenge is to think about, everything I've done since I've been home, everything can't go in the book. We have to pick and choose what does. But I need to get a literary agent. I haven't had really a lot of luck in that regard. I mean, it's almost like a literary agent is almost like a lawyer representing a writer trying to get them a deal with a major publishing house. So my thoughts, Rob, are that, there's a lot of exoneree books that are out there, and they really have gone nowhere. They haven't been read. They're not, and as such, they're not making a difference. And it's really because they run to small presses. I want to go to a major publishing house that has a budget for marketing, public relations. They're going to get me shelf space. They're going to set up a book signing tour. I mean, I don't want to learn all those things and start sinking my own money into all that. I mean, that should really, come from the company. And, I would like to get in advance, and I want to do it the same way that somebody of average means would do it. So I'm hoping that the right people could come along, and, I could get the agent, I could get the book.
Right. I don't see why one of these big companies won't jump on it up in New York, Simon & Schuster, somebody big,
Somebody big like that. Yeah, exactly. And if that does well, the world can open for me at that point.
Yeah.
From a movie, a play, maybe a one-man
movie,
show,
yeah.
a musical. I mean, writing a couple of other books. I mean, the world. I mean, I can get a speakers bureau to then represent me. I mean, there's so many avenues so many doors that could be open for
Right.
me if I could actually get. But it all starts with getting that agent. So hey, maybe somebody from the Sports Scope who's out there. If you're an agent,
Yes.
you're an agent, or if you know somebody that is, 6 degrees of separation theory. But I do feel strongly that this is a story. This is a story that needs to be told. What happened to me really could, happen to anybody. And just the fact that I was able to survive, that it happened from ages 16 to 32, being in prison from 17 to 32,
Right.
but then to come out and to become an individual advocate, to open a nonprofit using some of the compensation, to become a lawyer, to have helped to free 14 people, to help pass 6 laws. I mean, I feel like it's been an incredible journey, and I feel so humble and blessed, the doors that have opened for me, but I still feel like I'm just scratching at my potential. I feel like the book and all these things we mentioned, I think there's some place for me to be able to do some commentary, and to be able to have some celebrity spokespeople, or to to have an athlete. I mean, because here's the thing, is we've got 14 people home. We have 13 cases that are active. We have another 5 that are approved and waiting. We don't have the capability of moving the other 5. We need to raise more money so we can have other legal professionals to work the case. And there's many more people out there. I mean, my ultimate dream is to have a chapter of the organization in each state and ultimately in each country, because I really see this as a awesome worldwide problem. Yeah. And the places where we don't, in countries where we don't hear about wrongful convictions happening, it's not because they're not happening. It's that no one's being exonerated. But the world of wrongful conviction, has crossed over into sports. I mean, Brian Blades, if you remember, I mean, even Ray Lewis, the quote from Ray Lewis, hey, to be charged with something you didn't do is the saddest thing.
Yeah.
There was a quotation from him. And for a long time, I thought maybe he could have been, but I don't have a way of reaching all these different, reaching all these different
people. Yeah. Reuben Hurricane Carter. I mean,
that's right. Reuben Hurricane Carter.
I can see Mark Wahlberg playing you, man, because he's a big sports guy. He would love that angle and the escapism of sports, and it would be huge. I mean, it would really be good.
It would be. I mean, many people consider Mike Tyson to have been wrongfully convicted of rape in Indiana, never exonerated, but many people, consider that to, consider that to have happened with him. The thing with Kobe Bryant, if you remember.
Yeah, and you said it's like 4%, right?
I think that there was a stat that says that estimates 4%, but I mean I think
there's thousands of people. That's a lot.
Convicted people. I think it's 15 to 20, but there's other.
Oh wow!
I think because look, there were 19 people that were exonerated, either before me or after me that I did time with. And when you think about across the U.S., there's a couple of people being exonerated. They've had scores of cases, hundreds of cases that have been tossed out just based on dirty cops, who have been found to have, planted evidence or given false testimony. I mean, I think some percentage of those people were innocent. I don't think that all of them were, but I think that some of them were. I mean, I do think it's possible for a guilty person to have been framed. Like the cops can't find legit evidence. And so, I do think that can happen. But I also think that in the process of doing that, innocent people can definitely be caught up in that web. So I do think that. But look, whether it's 15 or 20, if it's 5, if it's 4, because there was a 4% stat, it was estimated that 4% of the prisoners on death row were innocent. So there's a 4% stat.
Oh, death row. Yeah, I thought you told me. Okay,
right.
Yeah.
But even
still
if
huge though.
4.5, you want to say 1%, you want to, you want to say 0.5%. There's still 2.3 million people in much in the justice system. So if you want to say 0.5% of that, that's still a staggering. That's still a staggering number. But definitely lots of crossover between wrongful conviction and justice reform and sports. I remember reading that there used to be boxing programs where boxers from the outside would come in and would box inside.
Right.
Inside, the boxing program that gives hope to prisoners. I mean, I remember. Hey, Dewey Bozzella.
Never heard. Who's that?
Okay, so if you get the chance, so it's called the Dewey Bozzella story. So ESPN 30 for 30 had the episode of Dewey Bozzella. He was a boxer. He didn't get to go pro. He was wrongfully convicted. He did 26 years of prison. And he came out. He still didn't let go of the dream. He still wanted to have one professional professional fight, and he did have the one bout that he got to get in the ring. Yeah. So if you get if you're listening, you're out there, if you get a chance to Dewey Bozzella story again from ESPN's 30 for 30. I mean, that really is a touching thing,
man.
I mean, when his conviction was reversed, last thing on Dewey, when his conviction was reversed, they offered him to plead guilty to time served, and he refused to do that. He said, "No, I'm innocent. I'm not." And he went back to trial, and he got wrongfully convicted a second time before he was ultimately exonerated.
Wow.
He was ultimately exonerated. Yeah.
Wow, that's hard to get it back that time, though, right?
No, there's no way to get back that time. But the best you can do, I think, is do the best you can in the present and in the future, and make the best of your life and try to make a difference. And for me, that means reaching back to the men and women I metaphorically left behind, hence starting the organization, hence becoming an attorney, and my life dedicated to this. But look, to get to that dream, to get to a chapter in each state, in each country, and I need public support. We definitely need financial support and the support of all kinds. Always looking for board members and large donors. And my biggest challenge, of course, is that I didn't make it in business 10, 20, 30 years or be like in a career. I kind of went from worst to first. To think about a baseball thing. Yeah. The standings or teams went from worst to first. I remember the Braves and the Twins both went from worst to first. We ended up in the World Series, 91 World Series. Going to Game 7, extra innings. Jack Morris pitching all 10 innings. But and I went through worst to first artificially because of the lawsuit. So that means I need to have third parties who are willing to connect me with people in their network that this cause likely speaks to. I just want to have a conversation with people. Look, here's
it's really a good thing, man.
Here's the mission of the organization. Here's our accomplishments. This is the funding goal we're trying. This is what we could do if we were armed for bear. Is this something that interests you, or not? And I'm just be thankful for the opportunity at that point.
Yeah. Well, I'm about 12 minutes over, but I do want to get your take. Go back to that Super Bowl, man. So you're saying it's Kansas City, right? You don't think that San Francisco? What's the analysis for San Francisco to win, in your opinion?
Yeah. What the analysis would be? I think if the San Francisco defense can replicate what Baltimore did. I mean, Kansas City didn't exactly blow the doors out offensively against the Ravens. So I think that playing strong defense would be a key to San Francisco winning. Certainly not turning the ball over. Right. But I think that I feel like the AFC was stronger than the NFC. I mean, certainly the the 49ers almost lost that game. They almost lost that game to the
Detroit.
Yeah, to Detroit. Boy, that would have really been a story. But I feel like, I guess maybe at the last point I'll make is I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles were of the Super Bowl last year. Yeah. Were a lot stronger a team than what the 49ers are this year.
Yes.
but Kansas City still managed to pull off the upset. And
Yeah.
you know, I think that they get it done here against San Francisco. I think that I definitely think experience showed KC versus Baltimore.
Oh yeah,
And,
they panicked, didn't they, Baltimore?
Yeah, they really did. And
All those unsportsmanlike conduct and all that.
Oh my God, that was the worst possible time. I mean, the radio commentators even they even called him a dummy for that on the radio.
Yeah.
But look, Brock Purdy. I mean, no experience in the Super Bowl. I mean, some of San Fran, has experience. To the extent that some of the team was there, but that's not everybody. It certainly wasn't Brock Purdy. So I think experience. I think experience wins out in this one. And if Detroit could put points up on the board like that, and I think that Kansas City will be able to do it. So that's my analysis on that.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And the only thing I could see 49ers winning if they have a game where they run the ball like crazy and they're very successful doing so. Like, for example, Denver, when they upset Kansas City, which Denver wasn't that good this year, 40 rushing attempts, 8 of them by Russell Wilson himself. Brock Purdy had 40-something yards rushing against Detroit. Who thought he could run like that? So that would be you have to be Christian McCaffrey, this Deebo Samuel, and maybe Purdy getting a lot of rushing attempts and maybe running for 250 yards, something like that, so they can kind of just milk the clock and have Patrick Mahomes sitting on the sideline like he was in the Green Bay game, in the Monday night game. Remember that? Or Sunday night?
I do remember that. That would be the way for San Fran to win. I think another key on the other side. I think if Kansas City scores first.
Yeah.
I think that could really boost their confidence. Maybe that could put some doubt into San Fran. But I do think that these. Well, I mean, San Fran was clearly the best of their conference. I don't know that Kansas. I think I can't say that of Kansas City. I do think that Baltimore was better than them.
Yeah.
But. Hey, the best team overall doesn't always win. You just have to be the best team.
Who's the best team tomorrow, right? Or Sunday?
Right. That's right. Well, listen, thank you for once more having me on the Sports Scope, and please send me a link to the show, and I'll push it out on social media.
I'll email it to you. I'll give you the YouTube and the Spotify. I think my sister's she was sharing my show in so many groups. She wasn't asking permission. She got me suspended. God bless her. Hopefully I'll be back on in a couple of weeks on Facebook, man. But
hey, dark humor to end the night. Rob, you gotta get out of Facebook jail.
Yeah. Man, I was wrongfully accused. I gotta get you to get me out.
Yeah, right. There we go.
I love that.
Thank you so much, buddy, and thank you to your fans out there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy. And I'll have you back for NBA stuff. If something big happens, we didn't get to NBA, but maybe after the trade deadline or after the All-Star break, we'll catch up.
I think that would be wonderful. I'd love to do it, Rob. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Have a good night.
You
see you, man. All right, everybody. I will be back on tomorrow, same time, same place. Sonja Pearson is a friend from Northeast Streaming Sports. She's out of Atlanta area. Going to go over the NFC South with her. Big Carolina Panthers fan. She's originally from Charlotte. So tune in tomorrow, 30 minutes past the hour. I have Sonja Pearson on. Very good female personality. Knows a lot about the NFC South. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. See you tomorrow. Same place, same time here on Sports.